This is the ESPNU College Basketball Podcast.
Welcome to another edition of the ESPNU College Basketball Podcast. I'm Andy Katz alongside Seth Greenberg. And on this edition, we will be talking to San Diego State head coach Steve Fisher, discussing the Aztecs, a little West Coast basketball, what occurred over the past couple of days in college basketball, what's going to occur this week. And we'll end the show talking about our good friend Rick Majerus, who passed on Saturday, with Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News. So let's start off with Steve Fisher and San Diego State coming off a thunderous victory over UCLA in Anaheim at the Honda Center. That's a sweep of the LA schools in a week's time. They won at USC on November 25th. They beat UCLA on December 1st. This team is playing much better basketball than they did in that opener against Syracuse back on November 11th. And Steve, after watching that game, I couldn't get over how well your team is running, how well they're scoring in transition, and more than anything, they look like they're having a great time. What's it been like to coach this team?
Andy, every team, even when you have all the same faces, we got several of the same guys, some new guys. It's never the same team. And I like that fact. I like the fact that we have our four veterans who have been here, from Jamal Franklin to Chase Tapley to James Rahan, who are playing like veterans and setting the tone. They are a group that compete hard in practice. They like one another, and we're playing pretty good. We've got improvement, obviously, that we have to do if we want to get where we want to go. But I like what we're doing.
Coach, I turned on the TV the other day and against UCLA, and I see the Honda Center, and it basically is like the Zoo North. Tell us a little bit about the passion that you've created at San Diego State in terms of the ownership of the community and the ownership of the student body. How'd you make that happen?
Seth, you couldn't script it. It's just all of a sudden, about 7 years ago, we had maybe 20, 30 students that came out with me and said they wanted to do more, and they formed their little group in the end zone, and now it's morphed into we have 3,000 at every home game and could probably have more if we gave them more tickets, and they call themselves a show. They are the greatest home court crowd in the country. And I know that's a mouthful, but they are. If you come and watch us play, it's incredible the energy that they bring and the pride. And it's something to behold. And we've sold out our building, first time in the history of San Diego State, 12,414. So it's a hot ticket in an event city, and we are the event right now. And we went up to the Honda Center, and our fans were loud and proud. We did have probably 70% of the crowd, and we made 95% of the noise.
I'm going to tell you that I think this is one of the best stories in college basketball, because I was there in the 90s. I saw games at Peterson Gym. This is when you were at Long Beach State, Seth. Peterson Gym, they at times would play in the old San Diego Sports Arena with the Clippers' old home. They still, I remember going to a game once, and they still had like the banners from the bicentennial, from 1976 up there. Like, the place was just archaic, and there was no one there. This is in the Brandenburg era, bleeding into the Trenkel era. There was no interest, zero. And to see what has happened now at San Diego State, it has become, at Viejas Arena, one of the best places to watch a game in the country. I think one of the toughest home courts in the country. And then to see it translated to the Honda Center up the road in Anaheim, you really get a sense that the fans travel, they have the passion, and it really has made a difference in this program.
It has been absolutely unbelievable. And our fans, obviously, when you haven't won, you get a little success and you crave more, and you get people that come out of the woodworks that were there, but had nothing to cheer about. Now we've given them something to cheer about, and they're doing it in force, and it's so neat to see. And our players have embraced our fans, especially our students, and after almost every game, they go over and they acknowledge our fans. And they don't do it in a showy fashion, but they go over with sincerity and voice their appreciation for that crowd, starting in that student section and what they bring to our team. And we went from averaging my first few years there, 1,000, 1,200 fans, and getting no home court advantage to now this is a tough place to come into and play in our building. And Ben Howland made the comment after the game. He says, usually the white team is not the visiting team. He said, and it was the fact today. He said their crowd was so much bigger and better than ours. And Ben made that comment.
Well, that's a tribute to you, Coach. Now, you guys next year, if I'm not mistaken, are transitioning into a new conference, the Big West, the new Big West,
your old Big West,
which was kind of a little bit like the old Big West. But how do you think that's going to affect recruiting and the momentum that you've created? Because you guys have created some great rivalries in the Mountain West. And what are your feelings? With realignment, it's affecting everyone. What are your feelings about that?
I think that comment, Seth, the realignment is affecting everyone, and who knows when, where, and how it's going to stop. Look at the Big East, look at the ACC, look at every league, and it's not what it used to be. Our league, when I started, was dominated by our dear friend Rick Majerus, who passed away, and at Utah, BYU. Neither of them are here. We're leaving along with Boise State, who's a relatively new member, but playing terrific basketball right now. And it's the coming and goings. What we are going to do, Seth and Andy, we're going to ratchet up our non-conference schedule some. We've already got games scheduled with Cincinnati, Memphis, Temple. We got Arizona and a return game back home. We're going to replay. We're going to re-up another series with USC. We've just signed a contract to play Kansas. The first game will be at Kansas next year. And we're playing in the event in the Anaheim Center, one of your ESPN events. It's got a great field. So we're gonna play a harder non-conference schedule. Trust me when I tell you this. The Big West will be very, very good, and who knows in another year or two with the transitioning and stuff what the Big West could be. I'm not overly concerned about it. I'm concerned right now about Texas Southern, our opponent tonight.
Those games that you just rattled off, are they all for next season? Cincinnati, Memphis, Temple, Arizona, USC, Kansas?
Can you believe it? Yeah, they're all for next season.
Are you getting Cincinnati, Memphis, and Temple at home?
Well, we're playing Cincinnati at Cincinnati. We'll play either Memphis or Temple at home. It's one of those Big East, with our football team going to the Big East, playing both of them, one home, one away, and we're not positive who will be home and who will be away.
And then USC and Kansas. Is that Kansas game in Lawrence or Kansas City?
Kansas game is in Lawrence.
There you go.
I think it's good. I've never played there. I've never been to Lawrence, Kansas, and it's obviously one of, if not the most storied historical programs and successful programs in the United States. So we better keep recruiting.
I have one win there, Coach, and I'm never going back. I had a chance to.
I don't blame you.
I mean, it's one of those things. They can't take that one away from me.
6 games, and Digger Phelps told me never to go back. He told me to quit. Probably should have listened.
Coach, you have a very special talent in Jamal Franklin. Tell me what makes him so special. The thing that blows my mind, the guy gets to the free throw line over 9 times a game. What makes him such a difficult cover?
I hate to offend anyone, but I could probably say with sincerity that I've never coached a more competitive player and a self-driven player to improve. He came in as a freshman, and I tried to get him to redshirt. I didn't think he would play at all as a freshman. And he said, "We think," and then he said, "No, I don't want to do it." I said, "Well, what if?" And he said, "I'll be your best practice player. I'll make everybody else better." And he didn't play. He had 12 games his freshman year. He didn't even get in. And then by the end of the season, he worked his way into the rotation, but he was only playing about 8-9 minutes a game. Averaged 2 points a game as a freshman on the 34-3 team. The next year, he's MVP of the league, averaged almost a double-double, and that was guy in the gym. He had a funky shot that wouldn't go in. He couldn't make a free throw. And I'm saying the truth. Now he can shoot the ball. He's the best free throw shooter in our league, and he's willed himself into a player. And the nice thing about it, he's determined to get better. And he plays on that edge, and he has that emotional edge about him that if it's channeled the correct way, and you know what that's like. Sure. You've had him. That it's a great thing for him and the team. If he goes over the edge to the dark side, it can really hurt you. And he's had a few of those, but he's so much better right now.
San Diego State head coach Steve Fisher joining us here on the ESPNU College Basketball Podcast. So, Coach, you scored 49 points in that game against Syracuse on November 11th. You scored 78 points against UCLA on Saturday at the Honda Center. What would happen if you played Syracuse next week again? On a ship or off a ship? Off a ship in a gym.
Yeah, on a boat, we might get 50, maybe. That would number one, Syracuse is phenomenal. You know, if Boeheim's going to leave the state of New York and maybe even the city of Syracuse, you know he's got a good team, a great team. And I think he's got that again. They're really, really good. So we had everything that you could possibly say are stacked against you. Playing Syracuse on the USS Midway with a 20-mile-an-hour wind blowing, and they're tenacious, effective 2-3 zone. We couldn't make a shot, but we couldn't make a free throw. I think Jamal was like 7 for 14 or 5 for 14 from the free throw line. Jamal was, but I'd like to have a chance to play him again. If we play him again, obviously it would be in the NCAA tournament. So I hope we get that opportunity.
Steve, I'm looking at the Mountain West Conference standings so far, seeing what Wyoming just knocked off Colorado. Boise State won at Creighton. I think legitimately, and Nevada is going to play better. They have not played well yet. I think you could make a case that 7 of the 9 teams, legitimately now, with the way Boise and Wyoming are playing, could be factors in some form for postseason play in late February, early March. Why do you think that is?
Well, they're all good. They're good teams, good programs, and you can start with the teams that have been good. Vegas, you knew, and everybody knew. I mean, they had a great recruiting class, and that's a program that's restored history, and they're not restored history. I mean, Lon Kruger did a phenomenal job there. So they're good. They're legitimately good, and they go deep, and they got major talent. And Steve Alford in New Mexico, another storied program. He's done a magnificent job in a passionate city and fan base. And now Colorado State, the last few years, I mean, they made the NCAA tournament last year, and everybody says they're better this year. Wyoming is, have you ever been to Wyoming, Seth? I mean,
I've been there many times.
I can say that I was smart enough never to schedule Wyoming. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I never scheduled Wyoming.
This is as tough. There is no tougher road league in the United States of America than the one that we're in. We're based on travel and the quality of the opponent, and so it is a terrific league. And Boise came in last year, played all young kids, and Leon Rice has done a great job there. And they're obviously they almost beat Michigan State, and then they go into Creighton and beat Creighton. That's probably as impressive a win as we've had in our league.
Steve, before we let you go, you did mention our good friend Rick Majerus. He was a good friend to me for the last 22 years. And we're all, I know, terribly saddened with his passing on Saturday. And you had a chance to get to know him. You've coached against him. What do you remember most?
I remember Rick as a very, very talented, brilliant basketball coach. And that's how most fans that followed basketball remember Rick. But I remember Rick, though, as a caring, compassionate friend who loved his family more than he loved basketball, and that's hard to say, you know. Everything was predicated around his mom in terms of jobs he took and where he went and how he went. And in 2002, my mom passed. And I got from Rick, we're both Catholic, a card with a heartfelt, passionate note in it, and talking about family and moms and that sort of thing. And he offered several masses in her name, and that was the Rick Majerus that endeared himself to people that knew him, a guy that cared. He could be quirky, he could be difficult, he could be demanding, but he had a heart of gold that gave out on him, and it was so sad. And I talked to Ben about it, Ben Holland, before the game. I said it makes what we do, puts it in a little more real perspective, and, the human side, sometimes we run over. But Rick knew how to coach, but he also knew how to deal with the most important things in life, and we will all miss him dearly.
Yeah, I can tell you that he talks so much about his mom. He was such a devoted son to her. And, that's one of the reasons, that and his health at the time, why he didn't keep the USC job. It's a reason that he told me why he wanted to go to St. Louis, because it was, close enough to Milwaukee. And, you talk about that letter you got. On the positive side, if you will, when my daughter was born, my wife and I, we got this letter from Rick that was so personal. When my daughter was born, and so unexpected. You usually get like sort of a note, congratulations, or what have you. And we got this long letter that we've kept, from my daughter Lucia. That, and that's one thing I always felt sad about, it was because I know that he wanted children, was never in a position to have them, but really cared deeply about other people's children in terms of his friends that had children, and was always asking about them. And that's another sort of
he was a complex guy.
Yes, he was a very complex person.
Guy. That people, I don't think he allowed people to see that side of him. I mean, he gave you a look into the window of his heart, but I'm not sure he gave the rest of us a chance to see really just how special he was and how caring he was. I think everyone saw on the outside this brilliant basketball coach who didn't look like a basketball coach. He was very comfortable in his own skin. He didn't mind being different. But when it came to things like that, he was very private.
I will tell you one thing, and I'm curious if you agree with me on this, Steve, because you guys played them when you were in Michigan, right? Against Utah, or no?
We did. We played them. We played them home and home when I was at Michigan.
I think he was different.
I don't think we played them home and home. I think it was just at our place.
Okay,
but we did play them. Yes.
He was different at Utah than he was at St. Louis. I mean, we all evolve as human beings, but I think if you talk to the assistant coaches that work for him at Utah, whether it's Donnie Daniels, Jeff Judkins, guys like that in the late 80s, 90s, and then talk to the assistant coaches that work for him at St. Louis, much different. And the players, I mean, you just got to watch that news conference. I don't know if you saw that or remember it from last March when he had Brian Conklin.
Moved me.
Weeping on the stage. Talking about Rick, who's literally, a foot away from him after they lost to Michigan State. And I'm not saying that some of the players at Utah didn't have that same affection for him. And I know Keith Van Horn and Andre Miller did, and Jimmy Soto. But there were players there that didn't have that affection for him, that he really, Lance Allred and some others that he really rode on. But he was evolved like all of us and was a much different coach and person, I thought, the second time around.
I think that's well put, Andy, and Seth. But your comments are also very well taken. Rick, I think down, he was a bit shy, caring, but so caring, but a very private person, and in a lot of ways that not a lot of people probably really got to know him. And your story, Andy, that you shared, I can appreciate that, and it doesn't surprise me. But I know that it would surprise most people that just watched him pound the table on TV or yell at a referee or demand perfection from his players. So it's very, very unfortunate that someone who had such a big heart had to have that heart give out. And I met him he was a young grad assistant. I was a young high school coach, just got married in 1974 at Notre Dame. We worked Notre Dame Digger Phelps basketball camp, and we had I could go on. Fran Fraschilla was there, and must have been a dozen young coaches who were aspiring coaches, and Rick would hold court every night in the basement of the dorm, talking everything from politics to basketball to life, and didn't have a driver's license at the time. He was a unique person, but a person that if you knew him, you loved him.
Yeah, he'll be missed. Coach, we really appreciate you spending some time with us this morning, and this was this better than your morning cup of Joe, or is just, kind of a push? I mean, hanging out with Katz and Greenberg or having a cup of coffee, which one's better?
Well, you kind of do the second cup of the caffeinated coffee. You get me going, and I'm getting ready to have my first cup of coffee right now. So.
And for those that don't know, before you go, Steve, just tell me your view again. What's out one window and what's out the other?
Well, I know what it used to be like 20 years ago when I thought that everybody in America had gray skies and had the 20-degree weather from October to March. And now I look out my window to the east, and I look at the sun coming up over the mountains, and I look out the next window, and I get a view of the Pacific Ocean. So life's not too bad, and I'm enjoying my stay in America's finest city.
Well, we appreciate it, Steve.
Thanks, Coach.
Enjoy.
Good luck.
San Diego State head coach.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Seth, I love watching you, and Andy, I've always loved watching you.
Thank you.
Seth, you bring a wonderful presence to that studio and to those games. So look forward to seeing you down the road, and hopefully one of these times we can get you out at one of our games.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, San Diego State head coach
guys,
Steve Fisher.
Thanks.
Thank you.